and we're going to be dishing out our player rankings, starting with, of course, Mohamed Salah, because how can we not dish out some rankings and start with this guy here who wants to kick it off? Who feels strongly about their rankings? 1 to 10, no half numbers, no point something. Commit to a number.
For me, it's a perfect 10. And the only hesitation against the 10 to give him a 9 would be because what happens when he scores 4 goals or has 4 goal contributions in a game? But he didn't put a foot wrong in this game, in this stadium, against this team. I don't care that Man City is sluggish a little bit this season compared to the past. What an incredible performance. That's a perfect 10 for me. Perfect 10.
I love it. Anyone else?
I thought I was going to be alone and being wild with a 10, but I guess here we are. We're simpatico in this. No, I mean, despite the fact that we just had that Thierry Henry conversation in comparing and contrasting, Mo Salah as goal scorer, goal creator, just integral player on pitch, 10. I can't imagine anybody in a better position than him right now, and how lucky are Liverpool.
Nico?
Wow, you guys are the nicest substitute teachers I've ever seen.
Substitute teacher.
Nico's going to be like 8.
Disrespectful.
I mean, you need to score a hat trick to get a 10. Like, 10 needs to be perfect performance. Like, I don't know. I'm not giving out 10s. I'm not dishing out 10s. Like,
8,
I get it.
9?
What are you dishing out?
Yeah, like,
a 4.
Figure out a number.
Yeah. I'm giving him an 8.
Okay.
Because, like you said, Tom, he's capable of putting up a hat trick. Maybe he should have got more goals in this game, or maybe another assist. Who knows? Like, maybe it's like 8 borderline 9. Really, Liverpool looked really comfortable, and I also have to take into consideration the importance of the game and also the context of how easy the game was. I'm more on the l'équipe side of strong, but yeah, 8 for me. 8 for me, and I think it was an incredible performance.
I think that's still a good number. All right, let's move on to Dominik Szoboszlai, who was on the receiving end of Salah's assist in the game to get a second goal. We'll start off with the harsher critiquer at the desk here. What are you going to give him?
Yeah, now I'm thinking I gave him an 8. I gotta drop him down to a 7, but it feels like 7 is
a little
bit low.
And we can't do halves.
Szoboszlai. Yeah, but I'll give him a 7. I have to stay with my. I wonder what's in it for the Manchester City players now.
Yeah, I know.
8 for me. I think that he really didn't put a foot wrong. An underrated part of this game was the intelligence that it required, because they played with him technically as a false 9, but Curtis Jones was kind of also a false 9. So their spacing between those two players, everything that Szoboszlai was doing, pressing from the front, again, the way that he linked with Salah, he was very direct. Everything he did had a purpose. I really loved his performance. That's an 8 for me.
Curtis Jones, you brought him up. Let's rank him. What do you give him?
So I give him a 7. I think that this was a really good, really subtle performance, because we're looking at Szoboszlai, we're looking at Salah. Those were the 2 stars on the day. Curtis Jones, what he did, again, finding ways to, okay, I'm going to vacate the space for Szoboszlai, or I'm going to take it myself. I'm going to drift away. They're playing kind of a box in that midfield at times with McAllister and Gravenberch behind these 2 players. And again, with both of them technically playing false 9s and operating similar spaces, both of those players had to be very, very intelligent on the day, and I thought they were awesome. So 7 for me for Curtis Jones.
Yeah, can't disagree. I think he was very important for Liverpool, especially with them playing. They played without a striker. And Jota didn't come in and Nunez didn't come in. That's pretty impressive. So I give Curtis Jones a 7. He was very impactful.
7. The fellas, yeah, concisely perfect. I'm on board.
I want to hear how you're going to grade this Man City team. Let's start off Omar Marmoush.
4. I like, out of the gates, I think when we did ratings last week with Tony, he said, you start the game and you're at a 4, and you got, what are you going to give me to add points to that or take points away? Or at least a 5, right? Like, that, where's the starting point? Marmoush got the offside goal, but he was offside. You can't give points for offside goals. Manchester City, they lost 2-0. Your striker's got to score, and he didn't. Coming off of a hat trick against Newcastle, I can't find any more arguments to give him more than a 4. Doku was very active on the left, but there was no combination between Doku and Marmoush.
Is 4 your starting point for a player getting a start?
Yeah.
You're giving those points just for putting your name at the top of the paper.
That's for making the team sheet.
Cupo, what are you going with? Are you being a little harsher, a little nicer?
No, Marmoush, like, for the hype that he came in amidst and the expectations of what he should be doing, 5. I think that only 2 shots on target. Yes, the rest of the team was also poor. Is not nearly even remotely carrying your weight. Period. End of story.
Yeah. So you want 5? Mm-hmm. Tom?
4 as well for me. Again, I really, really like this player. I don't think this was his best game. A lot of City's attacks seemed too ponderous, too slow, and I don't think that that's the best way to get a top performance out of Marmoush. But again, I don't think that there was a lot of City players who played well. We're going to get to it on these next ones. I want Nico to go first on Doku.
You will, but Nico, a quick pause. Let's talk a little bit about Marmoush. Do you feel like he's been a bit underwhelming in certain moments or completely overwhelming?
I think it's really difficult to gauge where Marmoush is because his first half of the season with Frankfurt was sensational. I think he's a very good player. I think he's proven that he's a very good player, but it's also quite the challenge to come into this city in this moment where they are football-wise, psychologically, to come in and click. I think it's one of the more difficult tasks that any player can have today in February of 2025. Coming in and making City better, especially when you have Haaland out. I mean, he scored a hat-trick against Newcastle. I don't think you could say that's underwhelming.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to our next player. We're going to hold off on Nico giving us his rating. I don't want that to influence anyone. Jeremy Doku.
Oh, I know we're going to have some dissonance on this end also, Khusanov. Now, Doku, I thought, did the best that he could, especially just on the carry passing, trying to progress the ball where possible, but overall underwhelming performance by everyone else on that side, outside of maybe like a couple of players that tried. Am I giving points for that? Yeah, I guess I am. Because unfortunately for him, on this day, football isn't a singular pursuit. It requires 11 players.
So?
What's that?
So
I gave him a 7, which I think is still generous. But I think that that's also contextually placed in that individual performance, not the broader. I feel like he's trying to carry into spaces and just had no outlets, nobody really moving around him, no help.
Yeah. On that note, judging by my other ratings, giving Salah an 8, or what was it? I changed, right?
9.
I went Salah 9, Szoboszlai 8, Curtis Jones 7. He can't be at a 7. He's got to be at a 6, and he was Manchester City's best player. He was very active, and I say active, and that's my adjective that I use to describe what his game was. Because was he influential? Ultimately, not enough, right? The combinations, like we mentioned with Marmoush, weren't there. He did drive Trent crazy. I saw a stat that yesterday Trent was the player that was dribbled past the most in a single Premier League game. I don't know how many of those were Doku, but he got dribbled past 11 times. I would go out and say at least 9 or 10 were Doku.
They did him dirty with that stat. Tom, what do you...
He did himself dirty with that stat. No one's making up stats. Stats happen. That was on him.
For me, it's a 5. So again, I agree with what you guys both said. It's just I'm placing more weight on end product, on creating stuff. There was a lot of dribbles
Teacher Bogert,
for the sake of dribbling. Like again, he would beat Trent, and then he got the ball either stripped or Mo Salah could get him to go backwards. When he's going at Trent Alexander-Arnold, that is the trade-off with Trent, is maybe you're going to get dribbled by, but he's going to give you so much in possession. That's where they needed to win the game. That's where they needed to create their chances. He would go forward, and it was a little bit too ponderous, and then the Liverpool central defense was set. I just think that he needed to drive the game further forward. I understand that there wasn't always options in the box, particularly Phil Foden was pretty anonymous this day. So he can't pass the ball to himself, but he just was not creating enough danger, and the dribbling stats are cute. He didn't push it forward.
Much for you. Let's move on to Abdukodir Khusanov. Nico, let's kick it off with you.
You're at home. You're signing that's meant to keep clean sheets. For me, 4. Almost 3, but 4. I mean, I think out of all the center backs, he was the best one. But it's Manchester City.
Doesn't say much.
4. What can I give a center back that conceded, especially twice, and the goal, the second one, was through his legs? 4.
Yeah, I had similar logic.
3?
No, I actually gave him a 5, but that's because of contextually placing him Ake, not great, Lewis, not great. I think his passing was decent, but I think that it left much to be desired for that back line. certainly not good enough for a Man City side, but head and shoulders above his peers.
4 for me for everything you guys said. There's not much more to add.
Yeah. Well, if you guys want your papers graded nicely, you bring in Tom. You bring in Cupo. If
Oh no, I'm not always nice.
No. So you're the toss-up. You're the we don't know what
card.
we're getting. The wild card, Nico. If you
No, but I like Tom won me over with the Doku rating.
I reject the premise that I needed to win you over. I thought I already had you, Nico.
guys,
No, not when you went 10 out of the gates. No.